Hi, this is Daniel here, and in this video, I'm going to show you why you can't grow your private label business. So I see a lot of sellers that work hard, they put in a lot of time and energy on their business, but for some reason, it just doesn't grow. Like it doesn't go past a certain point, and it's like you're always hitting your head against the wall. And then on the complete opposite side of that, we have sellers like many of my students that are actually able to systematically and predictably grow their businesses. So what's the difference? Why are some sellers able to actually grow their businesses with predictability? And then on the complete opposite side, most sellers are actually not able to do this. And they might have some success, but then it's like they get stuck. And no matter how hard they work, the business just does not move forward. So let's hop on over to my screen here. I'm actually going to visually illustrate how this works, and I'm going to show you inside of the mechanisms of the business and really get you clear on the things that actually move the needle on this business. Because once you're clear on that and you really understand like the internal mechanisms of this business, that's when you can actually move the needle on your business, and you know that the things you're doing actually have an impact. So that's when you can actually start to grow your business systematically and predictably to the point that you want. So let's hop over to my screen here and I'll show you exactly how this works. All right, so now we're inside my computer here, and as you can see, I have this whiteboard here, and I'm going to really just sketch out and show you, visually illustrate the mechanisms of a private label business. And this is really the core of how it all works, how it all functions. And the way you assemble these mechanisms, the way you work with these mechanisms is going to determine really the traction that you get in your business and your ability to really grow the business, or if it's not assembled correctly, or if things are missing, or if you have unnecessary things in here that clog the machine, things like that, then your business will not grow, right? So it's really the culprit of a business that doesn't grow, and it's also the way to actually make a business grow predictably. So let's go through this and how it works. So as you can see, I have two circles here, and the first one represents your supply chain, right? So your supply chain is everything to do with manufacturing your products and getting them basically into the hands of your customers. And then the second thing here is advertising. So obviously you have to advertise what you have to sell. So we can call it marketing as well, but you have to have a way to actually expose what you have to sell to customers and then have them buy your product. So we can also actually call the supply chain just products, to make it even simpler. We could just call it products, because that's really what the supply chain is about. It's just about your products, right? And then advertising is really just about sales, right? So that's really what it's about, just making sales. So we've got products and we got sales. And then, there's a couple of like main things that you're looking to achieve basically with your supply chain. So for example, you want to also stay in stock. Like that's the main objective essentially of your supply chain. It's to actually stay in stock, because what's the use of having products like that aren't in stock? Like you can't obviously make any sales. So that's like a primary objective within your supply chain. Another one would be to lower costs, right? So within this mechanism, you want to be lowering your costs, increasing your profit margin, things like that, and constantly optimizing there. You want to increase quality, or at least maintain quality, prevent quality issues, things like that. So that's another main basically objective within your supply chain, right, that you have to accomplish. and you want to accomplish it better and better and better over time. Another one would be to like shorten your lead times, and there's obviously more, but I'm just giving you some examples here, right? So these are all really important things within your supply chain, right? So for the products that you're selling, these are really important things that have a huge impact on the success and the potential here within your supply chain, right? And I'll make this really clear here in just a moment, but that's a quick summary for your supply chain. For your sales, obviously, you have things here like your listings if you're selling on Amazon. So listing optimization, right? And just having really good product pages and offers on Amazon that actually convert, right? That's a really important objective within your advertising. So keeping it as simple as possible, like what's essential when you're selling on Amazon, well, having really good optimized listings is essential to be able to advertise and sell well. So critical. Another critical piece would be your Amazon PPC, right? So you have to have really good PPC systems really to generate the most amount of sales on Amazon and really optimize, for rank and visibility and everything, right? So we have that. Now you have obviously your you need to generate reviews, and you need to have good reviews, right, to really sell well. And now this could, you could put this under listing optimization, I guess. But there's, a couple of key things that have to be done to really sell your private label products on Amazon, right? So we've got that. And then we can really just look at it like, within basically these core functions of the business. It's like you've got these wheels spinning, right? So stay in stock, so inventory planning, right? Lower costs, maintain and increase quality, work on your lead times, things like that. And then within your advertising, you've got like your listing optimization, you've got your Amazon PPC systems, and your review generation and maintenance systems and things like that. So there's basically a couple of core things that must happen, and they must happen really well to make the most of each function of your business, right? So if, for example, you're like not staying in stock with your supply chain, you're always running out of inventory, or if you're you have quality issues, right, or you're overpaying for your products, your lead times are like 3 months or something, now you're going to have issues. Like your supply chain really isn't good. So that's a huge thing that's going to limit you. With sales, same thing. Like if your listings aren't properly optimized, massive thing that's going to just limit your sales potential dramatically for the products that you have. Same with PPC, right? Same with reviews. If you have bad reviews, or they're not up to par with your competition, it's going to be a struggle. So let me show you a few more things here that are really important, right? So that's not all. So we have more, right? More mechanisms. These two are really like the main mechanisms, but we've got another one here that's also really important, and we call this one we call it R&D. So this is just like research and development for your business, right? So this is like your product research. So let's put this in here so you can see it. So these are things like basically new products, right? Product research, finding new products, developing new product ideas, and then like product strategy, or we can say like strategic differentiation. So actually having something that is not just like a Me Too thing that then has the potential to really sell well. And then we can put things like improve your current products, right? So obviously when you have products, you want to make sure you're improving those products. So we've got these elements, and we can also make these are like these wheels in here that are spinning, right? So these must be spinning well. And then that's really like the bulk of it. There's actually one more mechanism within the business that's really important, which we'll put on here as well. I'll put it kind of to the side because this is really like a secondary thing or a supportive thing. And it's like admin slash support, right? So we've got that mechanism too. And so what are we doing here, right? So we're actually supporting the business, maintaining the business. So you've got obviously your customers that you have to take care of. You've got like finances, right? You have to make payments and pay your suppliers, pay for products. You need to receive obviously payouts for your sales on Amazon, for example, things like that. And then you might have like a team. So as you scale, you're going to have a team, you're going to have some people which you also need to take care of. And so you've got a few things in here too that are really key to the business, like a couple of key plates that are spinning. So that's really, you know, what it looks like. And these are all the main mechanisms really of a private label business. And I'll show you here in just a moment the precise mistake that I see sellers make that means that this chain here, because it's really a chain, is flawed, and it's not linked up correctly, and it's inefficient. It doesn't produce results. And how you can actually make this chain really powerful and have it actually produce, you know, fantastic results. So that, you know, either thing could be the case, but really this is the main chain here. You know, you've got like your new product, strategic differentiation, improving products, things like that, like some key things that just must happen if you're going to actually have a good business. Then for supply chain, you know, you have some key things here too. For sales, some key things that must be done well for this chain to really work and click and actually produce results. And then depending on the size of your business, you're going to have admin and support, which could be really simple in the beginning. And then obviously, you know, one key thing you have to do to grow your business and grow this chain here and actually, you know, put more and more through it is you've got to obviously have a stronger support basically mechanism in place. You know, you might have more people working for you, things like that. But now the other thing I really want to show you is really how this then works as this chain, because it's really like a pipe, you know, it's like a chain. And in business, really what it's all about is just delivering value, right? So with your products, what you're doing is you're exchanging money for value. And the more you can provide value, meaning like the more good products you can sell, and the more of them you can actually sell. So the more products, great products you have, and the more of each one you can sell. So you multiply each product, you know, by a factor of how many people are exposed to the product and wanting to buy it because it's a good deal. You know, you're giving them good value in exchange for the money. Like the more you can do that, the bigger your business is. It's really that simple. So what happens here is you like put money into the business, right? So to start, you have to put some money in, and that starts the whole thing, right? So you start with a product and it starts the whole cycle. And then obviously the end result of this thing is that it should produce more money. That's, you know, that's the net, you know, that's what you're really doing. You know, you're exchanging value for money, and by doing so, if you're doing it right, you should be making more money. So it's like a plus minus thing, because you could also lose money here too, which does happen. And then some of this money, you know, it's going to go actually, it's going to go like into your admin and support, you know, a little bit of that. But then you should have more money left over as profit that you can now like funnel back through here and into your business, right? To then add more products, you know, or buy more inventory, things like that. So a lot of it will just come straight in here because you're just reordering, but some of it will come into the R&D department and actually releasing new products and things like that. But this is like the core mechanism of the business. So now let me really explain like where people go wrong with this. So what's really the problem? So the problem is really connected, first of all, to the fact that like all of these things are pretty much essential, right? So you have to do all of these things well, and you have to do them consistently, and you have to do them for all of your products. And if you want to grow the business, you're gonna have to add more products. So you're gonna have to do these things consistently, completely, and well for every product, and more products, right? So these are core things that you just can't, like the business won't function without these core things, right? So the problem here is that a lot of sellers, they fuck this thing up, right? So they have like a business with a few products, and then they're just not able to add new products, right? And then that's a huge thing that's obviously going to limit their ability to grow, because they might be already too inundated with all these things. And then, they don't differentiate. They just sell me too products. And this means that, you have no strategic advantage. You're basically just fighting for scraps because you don't really have anything of true value to sell. You're just a copycat. Then they don't improve their products, and that can tie into like their quality control, right? So they have quality issues, and they get bad reviews, or Amazon doesn't like them as a seller, or the products get into trouble. They might even get suspended, so they lose like a product on Amazon, something like that. Then they might always be running out of inventory, which is going to dramatically, obviously, like cut the flow of value here, because you don't have products to actually sell, right? So anytime you don't have a product available to be sold or bought by a customer, that obviously minimizes, like that reduces the flow of value in your business, right? So that's another thing that people mess up. You might be really inefficient with your supply chain, so your lead times are like way too long, and things like this. You might be overpaying for your product, so your margins are bad, or you're not really competitive. And then you might be really, just very naive with your PPC, and you're doing PPC just okay because you don't think it's that important, but in reality, like you're losing out on your biggest opportunity to actually sell more and optimize your sales and get more traffic. You might be bleeding a ton of money in PPC. You might have listings that are just, okay, but they're not really optimized. You're not really doing it right. You're not properly, optimizing your keywords and your indexation and your rank, and you're not really leveraging elements to increase your page interactions to help you with organic ranking. There's things like this. You might not be able to get reviews. And these are just, really simple things that honestly, if you want to grow this business and you want to have a strong mechanism that is reliable, that's predictable, all you've got to do is just these core things extremely well, right? And if you're not doing them at least well and consistently for every product you have, and you're not able to actually just do these simple things well enough to do a good job of every product, to actually then be able to add more products and things like that, that's where the thing is fucked. That's where the problem is. That's why you can't actually grow the business. And then the craziest thing is that I see a lot of people not have these things like properly in order, right? So these things aren't even acceptable, to be to have a good business. Like they're just not being done properly. And then they're trying to do like Shopify and ManyChat and like all these different things like Facebook ads, and they just want to do all these different fancy things within their sales because they think the problem is here. But the problem is not here. The problem is right here, like in the just core mechanisms of the business. The solution, the reason they're not growing is not because they don't have, more wheels spinning here. It's really just because, again, these core things aren't even spinning right, or maybe not spinning at all. So that's the problem, right? And then now when you want to scale your business, so let's say you get this stuff in order, right? And you actually are doing these things well, like you've got your R&D, your supply chain, and even your advertising dialed in, like your listing optimization and PPC, and just like the core essential things you have to do to be able to really make this business work for you. So let's say you've got that in order. Now what happens is that when you want to now grow the business, you're going to add a multiplier to all these things, right? So now let's say you grow to like 4 products. If you want to have 4 products, this means that you're going to have to do all these things that you might be doing right now by yourself pretty well. You're going to have to do all these things more often, right? You're going to have to handle more volume. So to let more value flow through this chain, through this pipe, you can look at this as like a pipe. To have more value flow through it, you need to like expand the capacity of this pipe. You need to expand the capacity of your business to be able to push more and more value through it. So to be able to sell more products, but also more of your products, right? So anytime you want to grow the business, you need to basically multiply these things and be able to do more. So you need to expand the capacity of the business, right? To produce value and let the value flow, and not like fuck it up by running out of inventory and things like that, or wasting money on PPC, because then you might have the value, but you're just like you're cutting into it all the time, and it actually doesn't flow fully through the business. So now what happens is you need to look at another area of your business, which is this right here, right? So now you have to look at how can you actually make this more scalable. So you're gonna have to, for example, work on your team and things like that. You might look into your cash flow and finances so you can actually grow the cycle a bit faster. Maybe you need, there's a couple of things you can do obviously, but you might need some extra cash to put in here to grow it faster and things like that. But of course, you also need to have these systems in place, and you have to be able to scale them up, right? So one thing is to do everything yourself, have it all in your mind, in your brain. And another thing is to actually put it on paper, be able to delegate it to a team, and actually do these things as well at scale as you were doing it, when it's you doing everything. So that's really the challenge then when it comes to scaling your business. So I hope this gives you awesome clarity on the mechanisms in a private label business and really just how it works. So if you're trying to do things that are outside of what's on here right now, and if you're being honest with yourself and you say like, I'm actually not doing these things well, like these things are actually not, or at least some of these things are not actually being done well right now, then you need to you need to wake up. You need to realize that these are core things that must be in place. These are core mechanisms in this business, and if these things are not being done well, then that's your problem, and that's why your business isn't growing, right? So if you're just at full capacity here with these things, so you're just not able to add new products, that's your problem, right? That's why you can't grow. At the same time, if you're not even doing these things right well, and then you're trying to do like this other thing and this other thing like Shopify and Pinterest and Facebook ads, that's your problem. You missed the point. Like, you need to get these things dialed in before you try to add anything else. And then really, if you want to scale, you just need to add this multiplier successfully. And you might have to incorporate a team. You need to obviously make everything really systemized so you can actually, again, do it for more products and still really well. And, so you expand the pipe, the flow of value in your business, and that's how it grows. So hope this makes sense, and I hope this gives you clarity on A, why your business might not be growing and you're still working hard, and B, how to actually take things to the next level and ramp them up. So I hope you enjoyed this video and that it gave you some good clarity on why you can't grow your private label business. And if you like this video, then I would love to hear back from you, and you can just comment below the video and let me know what you think. Again, I'd really like to hear back from you. And if you're looking for help in growing your business, so if you're already selling on Amazon and you're either feeling stuck, like you can't grow the business, or if you're already growing the business, but you just want to get things even more dialed in, more systemized, more optimized, and you want to grow even faster, then I'll place a link below this video, which you can use to schedule a time to speak with me one-on-one and see if I can help you with your business. And we can go through specifically these mechanisms in your business and what they're like right now, and if there's a room and an opportunity for you to improve these things and thus grow your business faster and more predictably. So again, I'll put a link below this video so you can reach out to me and schedule a time to speak. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.